Hey there, MuggleCast listeners! I am back to inform you of some excellent news. GoDaddy.com is having better deals than ever. For only $3.59 a month for 12 months, you can get GoDaddy.com's Economy Package. With 250 gigs of bandwidth, 5 gigs of storage, and up to 500 email accounts, you can get your own website up and running with success. And as usual, enter code MUGGLE, that's MUGGLE, when you check out, and save an additional 10% on any order. Some restrictions apply. See site for details. Get your piece of the internet at GoDaddy.com.
Today's MuggleNet podcast is brought to you by Borders. In May, thousands of Harry Potter fans descended upon New Orleans for the Phoenix Rising Conference. Borders was there to take in the sights and share a lively discussion of the series that has bewitched the world with some of Harry's most dedicated fans. Listen in and watch the action yourself. Check out the Phoenix Rising Borders Book Club discussion at bordersmedia.com/Harry Potter or click on the Borders banner at the top of the MuggleNet page. Because the spoiler warnings begin right now. This is MuggleCast episode 101 for July 22nd, 2007.
Hi, everybody!
Hey!
Hey!
Hello.
Welcome to what's going to be our first of many episodes of MuggleCast, where we are talking about the final Harry Potter book. We have all just finished. I was the last one to finish. I don't know where to start. First, we want to tell everyone, let's see, there's 130 people in here right now. The number is growing rapidly, so if you want to add your thoughts to this discussion, you can email Jamie at staff.mugglenet.com. He's got his email open, and he's raring to go with your thoughts and theories.
Why don't we start off with a sort of simple, what did you think of the book? Since you just finished, Andrew, why don't you start us off?
Okay, well, I have to say, I'm trying to think if it's my favorite book, because there are so many twists and turns in this. I loved Dumbledore's explanation at the end about everything. The ending where Harry's pretending to be dead in Harry's arms was also very cool, and how he came back and how he was addressing Voldemort as Tom Riddle was perfect.
Yeah, especially because Dumbledore used to do that, so it shows he's, grown up.
Yeah, exactly.
That was very cool.
Well, it was sort of like I guess with the transfer of the wand, Harry... Well, I'm not close enough to the computer, you guys. See, the problem here is that everybody's, keeping me away, and I can't talk loud enough. Jamie, move your leg.
Yeah, we're keeping her away.
There you go.
I can't sit down with your foot there, dude. But I sort of liked how the transfer of Dumbledore's personality into Harry in the sense of not fearing Voldemort at all, in the sense of actually calling him Tom Riddle sort of came with the wand.
Well,
I thought it was fabulous.
You know what I loved? I loved when he was at King's Cross and there was the breathing child under the bench.
Yeah.
And every time Harry would stick to it, and Dumbledore would go, "Don't worry about that, Harry. It's hopeless."
That was a very weird scene.
It was very strange, but
very
when you
Lord of the Rings is blinding light.
When you realize that Harry wakes up and Voldemort is waking up at the same time, you know exactly who the breathing child is.
No, I completely agree. It's a very interesting scene, but it is a bit weird. It is extremely like Lord of the Rings, going to a different place where, saving prophecy and going to a blinding light place where you don't know what's going on. It's very interesting, though.
But this whole book was like that. We saw so much stuff in this book that was completely unlike anything we've ever seen before.
Just like Grindelwald's prison. What was it called? Nuremberg. Can you say Orthanc?
Nuremberg.
Yeah,
but as soon as I said it aloud, Jamie was like, you ripped it out of Lord of the Phoenix. Joe did.
You mean Lord of the Rings?
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Phoenix.
Lord of the Phoenix.
It's like a crossover thing, that planet. I can't wait.
Order of the Rings, something like that.
I don't think it sounds like that. I mean, Grindelwald, we're assuming that he's of Eastern European descent.
I still have never read Lord of the Rings.
With a name like Gellert Grindelwald.
Yeah.
Probably,
yeah. Well,
maybe.
Then that does sound like a very Eastern European thing, so I'm not at all bothered by it.
Oh, no, I'm not bothered. I just think it does sound very Lord of the Rings. It's a good thing.
The locket. The locket actually acted on Harry, much like the ring would have acted on Frodo, at least if I recall correctly, for Lord of the Rings references anyway.
Yeah, but I think it was more a parallel between the diary and the locket, not so much Lord of the Rings.
Well,
in the same sense,
they had
the
to take
diary acted on Ginny as the ring acted on.
Well, I mean, the locket acted on everyone. They had to take turns wearing it. It was getting heavier. He could feel it tightening around his neck. That was just all. That reminded me of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Just in the way it behaved and everything. I mean, of course, once it was open, then it was completely different and it was Joe's own thing. But yeah, so that was really interesting.
We currently have 392 people in the room now, so thank you for those people who have just joined us recently.
I was ready to be like, let's take a call live now,
No.
but none of that.
Yeah,
I see your Google notifier is saying there's quite a few emails coming in already.
Oh, wow.
But,
yeah.
Let's have a look.
Let's get to a first question now. I guess we'll talk about this later. But, Laura, you brought up that none of the Department of Mystery stuff was explained.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that just didn't get in there.
Well, I mean, I was somewhat disappointed that we really didn't find out much about the Department of Mysteries at all, because that was supposed to be
the veil. We were counting on the veil to relate to
and the room. Everyone was wondering about that room.
And it turned out to be the Great Hall.
What room? Oh, on the U.S. cover!
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that. It was
It's
not the Great Hall.
That's not, yeah.
Am I the only one, though, that I feel like the U.S. cover is slightly misleading?
Yeah.
Oh, yes?
Oh, incredibly.
Just made
completely.
Well, we speculated for so long that they were using wandless magic and pulling things from the sky.
Yes, it couldn't have been more misleading. Where was that?
Well, it was the point when the wand flew up in the air and they were both reaching for it.
I had thought it might have been the scene when Harry first ran into Dumbledore, and then Voldemort was going to show up and break up their little discussion, and somehow that was going to look like that area. Because it didn't make sense otherwise.
Well, see, I figured that that whole scene was going to take place when Harry and Dumbledore were at the...
Speak up. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, well, I figured that, like you said, I think we're kind of on the same wavelength here, that that whole scene on the front cover was actually going to take place whenever Harry and Dumbledore were speaking.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
So I think the U.S. cover is very misleading.
Yeah.
It's a nice cover, though.
We based so much speculation off of that cover.
We did.
The UK one, we were spot on now. Round of applause for us.
Yeah, round of applause, yeah.
Why don't we take a quick question now from Kayla, who wonders if any of us cried while reading the book.
Oh, great
and
question.
And she says that she bawled like a baby when Fred died. Anyone else?
I didn't bawl, but a couple of tears did trickle down my face.
It was funny because there are several moments this evening where Laura just bursted out, "What the is going on?" And I just had to die laughing because I've been getting delirious. We haven't slept in so long. We've just been reading all day today.
Yeah.
Seriously, that's all we've been doing today. Reading, sleeping, and eating.
See, here's my thing. I have been a longtime supporter of the... I've been a longtime supporter of the Harry is going to live thing. And whenever we thought Harry was going to die, I got very upset, and I started crying, and I cried through the entire chapter, and Andrew sat there and laughed at me
because it was so funny seeing you react like this. It was just hilarious. Like, your voice was like, what?
It was horrible.
Well, you know what was funny? Eric, you got a little spoiled, and Eric knew that Harry was going to live. And what was happening was I had already read the book, so he was telling me on the street, this is what's going to happen, and this was today. And I was trying to tell him that...
Because you already knew.
Oh, I already knew, because I had read it last night. And what I was trying to tell him was, it's a matter of perspective. So when he came to the part, when Harry died, you should have seen the look he gave me.
I was like...
Because he was thinking, oh my God, I know someone told me he lived, but he just died. And I'm like, yes, I was victorious. And
well, I had noticed, though, that the chapter after that whole scene, the King's Cross, was like the flaw in the plan, and lots of crap seemed to be going down. I mean, I wasn't reading ahead by any means, but every time a character bit the dust in the movie, or in the book, actually, I was just, I didn't know what to feel. I didn't cry, said, necessarily, but there were some tear jerkers. I thought. Like,
I didn't feel much emotion either. Not like
that. Andrew, is because we're hard people.
Well, like
really, Jamie,
we're hard people to break.
Really,
podcasting has strangled us.
I think there was so much death.
Yeah,
that you sort of removed yourself from it.
Although I have to say, last night at the release, emotion got the better of me, and I was bawling for quite a long time.
At the release, I cried.
Jamie and I both cried. When we got the books in our hands.
It was building up for Jamie. It started like a slow, like I can't believe this. Then it started, I can't believe this. I can't believe that. It was like I can't believe this.
It was the same for me because I got it in my hands and I got a little teary. But I was doing okay, and then I walk out and I see Jamie bawling, and I completely lost it. I was
could not take it at all. 740 people in the room. Should we take another question?
Yes.
Okay, Sean Quillman asked, "We were told in this book that someone would discover magic much later in life." Now, 2 people have asked me this already. Who was it?
No, I want to say... I don't want to say, but you have to think about Petunia because there's still that mystery shrouded around her. Remember my last one?
That's true.
Petunia, as it turns out, wrote a letter to Albus, I guess it was, asking can she be a part of the school? But I don't think she exhibited. That doesn't mean she exhibited magic.
Yeah.
So,
but apparently, did he tell her that she could? Or
what? Maybe, and this is just me. I almost think it was Dudley. Because
Dudley changed,
but not in the literal sense, correct?
Okay.
And Dudley viewed Harry saving his life from the Dementors as good magic, I guess.
Yeah,
that was really interesting in the beginning of the book.
And are we all agreed that the thing that caused Dumbledore to trust Snape was his Patronus, right? His Silver Doe Patronus, which showed that he because your Patronus can't lie, so it showed that he loved Lily and therefore that he was on the good side.
The perspective I took.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but he didn't show his Patronus until... You mean trusted him absolutely?
Yeah.
Because I think he was already trusting him.
Yeah, but don't forget, we've heard throughout all the books that there was one thing specifically which meant that Dumbledore trusted Snape completely, and we haven't. And she said it was going to come out in the 7th book.
But what was it? I'm trying to remember because we really burned through this book.
Wasn't it love?
I think so. I don't think it was Patronus.
But you can't just say it was love. There was something, one event, one thing that happened that caused.
Because Snape gave Dumbledore his word. That he would protect Harry.
Yeah, you remember.
And Dumbledore gave Snape his word that he wasn't going to tell, no matter what. That he had made this arrangement with Snape. He said, I'm hiding the best part of you, that you're committed to, protecting the boy. And so that's why Dumbledore would never answer any, questions directly about why he, trusted Snape.
Here's an email from Kelly who asked, talking about people who learn magic later in life, what about Neville, who turned from someone who wasn't very accomplished at magic to someone who was pretty clever?
I think that was awesome.
Neville was awesome.
And what I liked about that was Harry, on a whim, on like a gut feeling, had told Neville to watch the snake.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Neville ended up being the one to pull the sword from the hat and kill the snake, not Ron or
It also
Hermione.
shows how trustworthy he is that Harry told him once to do it. And
and at great risk to his own life.
Yeah, absolute risk to his own life.
Yeah,
there are 914 people in the room now.
Reminder, it's jamie@staff.mugglenet.com if you want to write in with your rebuttals or theories that you have about this book, assuming you have all read it now. If you haven't read it, now's a good time to hit
turn off your
Apple
audio.
W or Alt F4, whatever your nerdy Unix prompt requires.
We're getting quite a few emails saying our camera is pointing at the ceiling.
I didn't even know it was on.
I don't think it is on, so
yes,
perhaps...
it is, apparently.
Oh, yes, it is.
Oh, see video off. No, see, this is...
show local video. Oh, no, yeah, server...
Is it? What? Oh, yeah, there shouldn't be a video.
Oh, maybe it's just showing this as the last image.
Guys, can you
maybe
see
it's just
a
one
light?
print.
Can you just see a
Is
light
there a
or a
hand?
hand or something like that?
Is there now a hand? I'll keep this here until we get an
We're
email.
going to get 800 emails.
Saying,
Yes.
Yes, apparently people can see a light bulb.
No.
Said,
what about a hand?
Sorry?
If they can just see a light bulb, then it's just the still image of...
Just wait a second.
Wait a second.
But anyway...
this is intriguing.
Man, there's just so much to discuss.
Can I talk about one thing? I just want to talk about Snape very briefly, because I unfortunately got spoiled, and I read the epilogue, a part of the epilogue, which said that Snape was the bravest person that Harry had ever known. And I was expecting a lot more backstory on why he was the bravest person he ever known. So the flashback was very interesting, and it went part of the way to explaining it, but I was expecting a bit more.
I think it explained enough, and I think I said to you, Jamie, how much that epilogue really spoiled for you. Because now that you've read it, completely, you realize that Snape, you didn't know about Snape until the very last chapter.
You didn't know.
And I mean, I think everybody had a gut feeling that Snape was going to turn out to be good, but I had no idea all the backstory we were going to get on him. I mean,
and you know what was sickening? Realizing that he was looking in Harry's eyes because they looked like lilies.
Lilies, yeah.
It was just gut-wrenching. You're just sitting there.
It was awful,
and really intense.
It really spoke volumes to me whenever, Snape was sort of talking about all the people he didn't want to know about his betrayal.
Can I interrupt very quickly and say thank you very much for all the hand emails? I've just refreshed the email, and there are about 15 there saying, yes, we can see a hand. So please don't email anymore.
We can't fit everyone in the frame, so it's kind of useless to tilt it down. I mean,
the video is
Laura,
showing.
you don't mind, because Laura's sitting right in the view.
Okay.
Okay.
We can rotate it, though.
Tilt down.
Everyone,
no, because then we're throwing off the placement of the mic. It's very awkward.
Okay, there are now 1,045 people in the room. And
good. We're going to get another email from Ustream shortly saying we're crashing their servers.
Michael Greenberg wants to know what Aberforth did to that goat, because that wasn't explained. Any ideas?
What goat? I'm forgetting.
I think it was left open for a reason. I think
so too.
There are some things.
What was left open for a reason?
Oh, hey, hold on.
Some things that don't get into Harry Potter.
Yeah.
What? Casey asked, what was the significance in Lily's eyes in the end?
Well, I think the significance was to Snape.
Yeah.
Really?
Snape's love for Lily.
Because that's what Snape yearned for.
I was expecting that to be a bit more explicit, though. Absolutely right out.
Really
but I don't know.
I was... Go ahead, Aaron.
What do you think of Harry's turnout family connections there, as we speculated about?
Oh, yeah, that was interesting.
People thought he was possibly the heir of Gryffindor, or Dumbledore might end up being the heir of Gryffindor, or something else might happen. Well, Harry's lineage, he was related to the Peverells.
What it just goes to show is that it is our choices, as Dumbledore said, because, coming from the same bloodline, and Harry and Voldemort,
that was people, also something that I noticed she was contrasting, because Snape had the choice to go into Gryffindor just as Harry did, but he chose Slytherin, even though the woman who he loved went into Gryffindor. And he said, I think Dumbledore said, I really think we should sort later.
Yeah, I love
that. Was really interesting. He's speculating.
Because if you think about it, if Snape hadn't become friends with the Malfoy,
Mulciber,
and all of them, he probably would have been Harry's father.
Here's a very, very, very interesting email from Tilting Windward, who says, one observation which may not be accurate is each of the Horcruxes destroyed by a different person. Voldemort does Harry, Neville does Nagini, Hermione does the cup, Ron does the locket, Dumbledore does the ring, and Deus Ex Machina does the diadem, which is like that fire that came from nowhere, just happened to destroy it. Yeah. So it was a lucky plot. But that's very interesting.
That is true.
And they asked if this is relevant to the magic of the thing, and that Harry can't accomplish the task Dumbledore set to him on his own, and needs the help of people around him.
If that were true,
I think so too.
I mean, I like that idea, especially because it is so cool that different people destroy everything. But the book for so long just focuses on the trio. And Kevin was telling me quite often that it was the trio's mission to do this, trio's mission to, and then that alone. And so for most of the book, I was just upset that there was this focus on Harry, Ron, and Hermione, which wasn't bad. But I wanted to see the other characters. I wanted to see Hogwarts, and there are so many brilliant characters in this world. I was a little upset that we didn't see most of we did, because they all got killed. They all got killed. J.K. Rowling and her death stick just killed 55 to 70 people.
Well, back to the Horcruxes, I think that it shows that Harry is the leadership amongst everyone. No one would have destroyed the Horcruxes if it wasn't for Harry, but he rallied them together to accomplish the overall
That was
goal.
so cool.
I was very surprised, though, how they ended up executing it all, going in a tent, living in all these places. I did not see that happening at all. I was just expecting them to go into the deepest, darkest places in the world and, like, uncover these Horcruxes, but it was like they were just chilling in a tent night to night.
Yeah.
Which was still, it was still a great read. But.
What I thought was absolutely awesome was the scene in Godric's Hollow when Dumbledore said, you see a different kind of magic. Magic isn't only pointing your wand and allowing sparks to come out. So the Nagini acting as Bathilda Bagshot was just brilliant.
It was.
We've had a couple of emails regarding the sword of Godric Gryffindor asking how did Neville randomly have the sword if Griphook had taken it? How could he get it out of the hat?
Because I think the hat had a magical link to the sword.
Yeah, and also remember the ones who truly need it get it. Remember, just like Harry in the chamber.
Yeah, but it can't duplicate itself. So
right. But I think it would act like some link if a Gryffindor is in need.
And remember, Gryffindor was the one who enchanted the hat in the first place.
And had possession of the sword for a long time.
And it's quite possible that the sword, as they said, was originally owned or was Godric Gryffindor's, wasn't stolen from the goblins. They speculated that, so
I think it probably
could be rightfully Gryffindor's.
Now the hat's gone, though, isn't it? It was burned.
There'll be no more sorting in Hogwarts. Although
No,
completely.
Well, I don't think they really explained it.
They didn't. No, I'm just.
Well, that was Voldemort's thing, though. He said there will be no more sorting at Hogwarts. Everyone will be Slytherin.
No, but I'm just saying, what are they going to do? Can they repair the hat? Can they?
But get a new one? I think it was somewhat explained because Dumbledore, we saw in that scene. He said, "I sometimes wonder if we should start sorting later."
Well, who's going to tell that? You think Harry?
Remember in the epilogue, Harry told his son that it was his choice. Yeah. So I think
the sorting house hat takes into account.
But he said he had never told one of his kids that before.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, in his head, it's his own choice. But even if the sorting hat has to say,
but
connection lost, guys. Stand by.
Stand by while I attempt to reconnect. Just pause.
We have a lot of questions to go through.
Okay, I think we're...
Are we back?
And we're back!
Sorry, everybody.
Sorry, it went down. We have loads of emails coming in. Daniel wants to know, he thinks the King Cross Harry's Head chapter was a cop-out to fill in undesirable gaps in story. Do you think that, or not?
I kind of felt that way.
I did a bit as well.
Just a kind of way.
Wait,
yeah, that's actually...
Well, they didn't explain she didn't really explain the sort of... theory behind it, like how could he talk to Dumbledore? Was he in a gap between the dead and the living?
Well, I think they did, because in my mind it was exactly like what Voldemort experienced when he got separated from his own body, with the exception that Harry was good, had a false soul, and it wasn't complete agony for him.
But at
he went in willingly.
It almost made me feel like Joe realized, oh crap, I shouldn't have killed him, Half-Blood Prince. How am I going to get him back in to explain all this to Harry? How's Harry going to find all this information? It felt that way because it was so random. Like, out of the blue, he's talking to Dumbledore again. And then at the end of the chapter, Harry says, is
this real? Yeah.
Is real,
or is it in my head? And it was so weird that Voldemort and Harry were both experiencing that, because Dumbledore replied, it is in your head, but that doesn't mean it isn't real.
Right.
Or whatever. So,
but that's the thing that I was thinking to myself. Voldemort was the thing,
writhing on
the floor. So you have to wonder, is that where Voldemort went when he got separated from his body?
Into Harry's head?
Not necessarily in his head, or because you don't know where he went. Maybe, perhaps Harry's head. But all I think is that maybe that's where Voldemort went, and that's why it was so painful for him.
We have a slight rebuttal here who says that Ariana could be the person who learned magic later in life.
Yeah, but we didn't know her beforehand.
Oh, that is true, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't know anything about... The whole Dumbledore family was a slightly interesting spin on it, especially when we talk about Albus, who was talking about how he was actually... power hungry in his younger years, and wanting to overtake the Muggles. That was a really interesting twist on Dumbledore's character.
That was what I loved about that, because Dumbledore basically told Harry the reason he turned down his position at the Ministry was... Okay, I'm speaking louder. The reason he turned down a position at the Ministry as Minister was because he knew he'd get out of control.
With power.
Yeah.
Some people can't handle the power.
Or how about the Mirror of Erised? I think that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Throughout all the books, you're thinking Dumbledore would only see a pair of socks. But then you realize that No, but that's what you were told.
That was such a shocker.
That's what you were told, but you never realized he saw exactly what Harry saw. He saw his family.
That was one of the coolest moments in the book, in my opinion.
It was very cool.
That's true.
Laura, here's an email for you from Carla. With the subject, Laura, I love her hair. She looks very pretty. Can you tell her that? Thanks.
Oh, well, I'm glad you think so. I look like I sat for an hour crying, but...
There are also a couple of emails, quite a few, asking what has happened with Joe's naming of characters in the epilogue, because some people aren't happy with what they've
I'm
called.
not happy either. I have to say that the epilogue was one of the things that got spoiled for me, and the names were so obscure I couldn't believe it.
No, Hugo was obscure, but everybody else was named after their parents.
Which seemed a little...
Albus Severus, Lily, James, Albus Severus.
Let's face it, though, when you spend that much time and you've met all these heroes and nice people, you'd be very, very
grateful. It's a tribute. Especially, the Albus with the middle name Severus, and Harry explained that they're named after the two great headmasters. One of them is the most what do you say? Courageous. The bravest man I know. That was all interesting that they named each other after, their parents, but it was still a little bit confusing, the names and the way she gradually introduced who was whose brother and stuff, and who was, for instance, I like Draco at the end. I like seeing Draco.
I was upset that Draco wasn't more involved.
I agree.
With Ron.
I agree.
We have an email from Chris who asked, what do you guys think of how adult this book was? I think both just in, the writing style, because Jo's come a long way in how she's written, but also in the use of her curse words quite a few times, like when Mrs. Weasley calls Bellatrix a bitch.
Mrs. Weasley killed Bellatrix!
Totally.
Oh my god!
I was surprised. I expected that to be Neville's fight.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Seriously, and I don't think she got it. There was enough storytelling going on there. There should have been a moment where it was like, Mrs. Weasley actually killed someone. Mrs. Weasley killed Bellatrix.
That line was like the best line in the whole book. She was like,
"Get away! You will not hurt any more of my family."
She was like, "Not my daughter, you bitch!" It was the best thing ever.
It was crazy.
Here's an email from Sammy who says, "How do the authors of the MuggleNet book feel about their 100-to-1 odds against Dobby's death?" We'll get back to you on that one, Sammy.
I got a little sad, and I think I was actually sitting over here on the floor, and I sort of. I was like, no!
She was rocking back and forth, I think.
I think that was one of the saddest deaths.
Yeah, it was so sad.
Especially the way it happened. Because he was so close to...
and there's little words. Harry took his little body. Little words.
What did you think about him digging his grave?
With a spade, with a little team, not even like a proper shovel, with a little spade.
And then Griphook called him out on that. I was like,
what? Griphook's like, you're an
odd wizard. Yeah.
You're an odd
pay
wizard.
his respects.
Andrew's on video!
We have quite a few questions saying that stuff that Jo said she would explain, she hasn't actually explained. For example, the fact that Harry's parents' professions weren't ever talked about in the seventh book. And obviously the veil, which is a big disappointment for some people.
But there were a lot of veil references in this book. At one point, Harry, I forget which character it was. Was it Hermione? I think he talked about feeling like he was separated from her by a veil, and
that was also explained in the Resurrection Stone, where they analyzed kind of returning to life but not really being alive. That wasn't really the veil, though.
Now, Laura, you mentioned it was a complete bloodbath, I think, at some point, and we've been a few emails asking if all of the deaths were completely necessary, like Lupin and Tonks.
No,
they weren't.
I thought that was. I saw that coming a mile away.
He did. He's very happy.
And the reason being is when Lupin came in and said, "Harry, I want you to be his godfather," I knew he was dead. I knew him and Tonks were dead immediately.
Well,
and I screamed to myself because it's such a parallel.
But they didn't make
it. Really is between Harry and Potters.
And
it even said
Harry
not the band, but
Harry felt he was shaping up to be just as good a godfather as Sirius.
Right.
But Harry doesn't raise Ted Tonks, does he? Because he's just kind of in the background in the epilogue. Ted Remus Lupin is raised by Tonks's mother, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's just at the other end of the platform. They're like, he's our cousin.
But also they say that he is over their house so often, he might as well just be family.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Here's a very interesting question from New Zealand.
Wait, can I say one thing real quick?
Where is it?
The one piece of foreshadowing that really bugged me, and it bugged me because I had already read the epilogue, was when Harry's talking to Ron, I think very early on in the book. They're talking about Ginny, and Harry was like, I'm not going to, marry her or anything. And I was like, oh my god, that's so obnoxiously placed in the book. It's so obvious. Made me go like this with my hat for everyone watching the Ustream.
It's a pretty serious, response to that.
You know what, though? I'm very glad that I wasn't spoiled, because little lines like that didn't jump out at me the way that they would jump out at some people who had been spoiled.
If you had already known what was happening, it looked obnoxiously placed, which sort of is the reason why it annoyed me.
I thought it was ironic the way it was placed, more than anything, because of course you knew they were going to grow up and get married.
Yeah, but they did. I'm glad Ginny didn't die. With how many deaths I'm not too happy about, I'm glad with who survived. I really,
very interesting.
Really am.
It's a question from New Zealand, which I think is a very, very potent question considering the end of the book. Who do we respect more now, Snape or Dumbledore?
Oh,
that's a really good question.
Still Dumbledore, because this was all Dumbledore's grand plan.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And he had been thinking about this the whole time.
I think you said during the podcast at Waterstones that you consider Dumbledore and Snape, Dumbledore, Voldemort as the most powerful wizards, and then Snape under. And you said, by a decent margin. Yeah. But now you have to wonder how big that margin was. Snape was extremely, extremely talented with that whole curse scene.
But saying that now, Voldemort killed him very, 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 very easily.
It's true.
With the giant snake.
But I almost felt like Snape somewhat took it.
He did take it.
In a way, because he knew he had to.
He did, yeah. He really did.
One of the things that surprised me was the portrait of Dumbledore being able to continue to convey instructions and formulate plans to tell Snape how to react all year to Harry and to give him the sword and stuff. You guys know that? I mean, the whole portrait thing, we speculated whether they were just personalities or reflections or something.
That was full information that was going on.
That was Dumbledore.
But see, that's why I think I said during the Waterstones thing that I think that the person may have a choice what they can put in their portrait.
Yeah, it was an
choice to information. And
the whole Dumbledore scene, though, where Dumbledore is explaining everything to Harry, really got me, because Joe really put emphasis on the fact that Dumbledore was dead at that charity reading back in August.
Yeah.
Whereas with Sirius, it wasn't like, yes, Sirius is dead, that's it. She said that about Dumbledore. Yet Dumbledore comes back and does this whole scene explaining every little thing. So it was kind of backwards, if you ask me.
Here's the thing, though. Do you guys really think that was Dumbledore, or do you think it was in Harry's head?
No, it had to be Dumbledore, I think, because even though it was in Harry's head, there was stuff that Harry could not have known. Harry actually got answers that even in the back of his mind, maybe his mind fabricated it, which is, you can take that to mean one thing if you want.
But I wonder if, I wonder if Harry had become versed enough to sort of gain the answers on his own.
To answer his own questions.
Yeah.
But I'll have to read it all again, but that was very, very, very descriptive, and it got so deep, it started making my mind go numb.
It was awesome, though. I love the whole Dumbledore storyline, because it just shows that he's human, the entire thing. People aren't perfect, and anyone who thought he was perfect throughout all the books was living a fairy tale, because everyone has skeletons in their closet. Dumbledore's the same. People who hate him more now, I don't understand that, because I think I like him even more.
Dumbledore's story was so heartbreaking. I mean,
I like the parallel between Dumbledore and Voldemort in the sense of the Hallows.
Yeah.
And during that scene, it really stuck with me how he said that, Harry, you are the better man. Because it's somewhat true. Looking back at the mistakes Dumbledore has made, it's pretty apparent that Harry has made better choices.
One question we keep getting is, in the epilogue, we find out that Ted Lupin is kissing a girl called Victoire, I don't know how you pronounce it, which sounds, as a lot of people have pointed out, very French, so could it be the daughter of Bill and Fleur?
Oh, I think so.
They made reference to that, because they said, if he gets married, then he'll truly be family.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
it has to be.
It has to be.
Okay.
Has to be.
Has to be.
Well, what's the deal with Bill and Fleur? They weren't even. Fleur wasn't Were they in the Great Hall? Because so many people came through the room of requirement to come in. Even Percy, which was awesome, by the way.
I know, Percy.
Real quick, our Teddy Lupin snogging our Victoire, our cousin. And I asked Teddy, what was he doing? You interrupted them, said Jenny. You are so like Ron. It would be lovely if they got married, whispered Lily. So, yeah, it sort of explains that. Anyway.
Again, on the sort of pointless deaths thing, people are asking why Colin Creevey died.
That was so depressing.
It was sad.
I specifically said to Kevin, because Colin Creevey had been petrified in year 2, spent most of year 2 out. Why would it? Well, no, that's not even foreshadowing because. But why would they bring him back to he's
and wasn't he underage too? I mean,
he was.
Yeah, because
they ran into the. They
didn't McGonagall catch him and she was like, Creevy, no, or get back here.
And he said when he saw his body, he said an underage wizard who must have snuck in just
I mean, it was heart-wrenching, but maybe Joe used that to represent the underage, wizards who had been fighting, but it was just
I also think she was using that as a way to show how disconnected Harry was feeling at that time.
There are a couple of plot holes, though, even in Book 7, that people have pointed out already. How could Dumbledore fight Grindelwald and get the unbeatable wand off him? Because an unbeatable wand is an unbeatable wand. So surely you have to.
But there was a condition to the unbeatable wand, which is didn't they say that you had to be in desperate need of it, or there was a specific condition they applied to it?
You guys, we burned through this thing so fast. We definitely need to reread it.
Yeah, I think we captured most of it very well.
Yeah.
I'm watching Jamie's Google Notifier, and all these emails are coming in by the second. One caught my eye. It said in all caps, "Do you guys hate Rita Skeeter?" I mean, I don't know if we can because she wasn't that far off the mark.
Yeah.
So,
you know what though? I think that you have to. She was awful, and I think that what she said was completely awful. I mean, especially when you found out that the reason Dumbledore's father went after those Muggles was because they had damaged his daughter.
Oh yeah, that was just something that Bathilda wouldn't tell, Rita. And Alpheus Dodge, the character, I liked because, he had kind of that sort of undying admiration and faith in Dumbledore, but he was wrong in some respects, and that there was a darker side that he would really not want to even think about or admit to. And it's kind of, he's trying to see the best in Dumbledore, just as Dumbledore saw the best in everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Laura, do you want to follow up on your question about who was the person at Godric's Hollow the night the Potters died?
Yeah, why didn't we find out anything about that?
I don't think it matters. I was thinking about that while I read the book. I don't think it matters.
But
that whole thing was brushed aside, kind of like what...
It seems like it was, because if you remember, Joe had specific involvement in the way that scene was shot in the first film.
Yeah, and when we got that recount where Harry was in Voldemort's head going to Godric's Hollow, there was nothing extra really explained. Yeah. It seemed like that scene was
it seemed like she was being deliberately vague on the site whenever asked, was it Snape under the invisibility cloak? Instead of saying nobody was there the night the Potters died, she just said Severus Snape was not there, or was it Snape? I don't remember.
But if she said nobody was there, then it would have just closed up a big question.
Yeah, I guess so.
I don't know. What? Speaking of Godric's Hollow, I liked how they had erected a statue of Harry and his parents. That was nice, and they kept the house there, and a little thing came up out of the ground and said, "Keeping this here in memory of these guys who lost their family. Their family was broke up." So
I didn't know how
people signed it too.
Oh yeah, that was really nice. But I don't even know how I feel about the Deathly Hallows. Because whenever JKR was asked, why did Dumbledore have the invisibility, or she said, completely significant, but it turns out to be because of this other thing that we hadn't previously heard about in all the Hallows. And there seems to be, that focus between Hallows and Horcruxes, and Harry's choosing to go after one or the other. But even the Hallows, in the end, Harry never had the Resurrection Stone, the Elder Wand, and the Resurrection Stone. We never, and the Invisibility Cloak. Yeah, we never found out what happens if some person were to hold all three. And I understand that Harry didn't want to become the Master of Death, and he's like, yeah, I dropped that thing in the forest, I'm just going to leave it there. And Dumbledore, the portrait's like, whatever, dude. But you never find out what exactly happens with the three, and maybe that's, supposed to happen to show Harry's contentment. But I thought that was a little strange. the whole Hallows thing was, I wanted them to be the Horcruxes like we had speculated.
I think in a way, we did kind of find out what happens, because look at what happens when somebody like Voldemort, who's so power-hungry, gets a hold of a device like a Horcrux. And clearly Dumbledore had that same kind of thirst for power. So what
he
if
wouldn't kill for it? Horcruxes you have to kill for it.
Right, I understand, but as a young person, he was clearly open to ruling over another group of people.
But it's a different kind of power. The whole Horcruxes versus Hallows thing echoes the good versus evil thing, because when you create Horcruxes, you don't control death, because it means you're afraid of it. If you seek immortality, then you're scared of the cycle of life. Whereas with the Hallows, you just want to, you have mastery over death, so you can choose your own destiny. Whereas with Horcruxes, you're more sort of less. It's less about your choices and more about what
I suppose, but I think that the way that Dumbledore and Grindelwald were planning to use them was definitely not good.
No, definitely not.
Well, what I liked was when Harry had the choice between going after the Horcruxes and going after the Hallows.
He had that choice twice. Once in who to talk to.
Yeah.
Griphook or Ollivander first.
And then once when he woke up.
Woke up from what?
Well, from his dream.
Oh,
yeah. Dumbledore. Because he had the cloak, he could have gotten the wand, and he had the stone somewhere on the ground. So
I'm looking at the emails. There's a lot of good questions coming in right now. To Jamie at staff.mugglenet.com, probably the hottest inbox online right now.
Right at the moment.
Jamie, you got a couple others?
Lacey asks, isn't it possible that being the true master of death is to accept it like Harry did? So, completely different from my previous point, are the Hallows sort of a fake way of mastering death, and the only real way to master it is to know you're going to die?
But didn't Dumbledore kind of tell Harry that he had mastered death? I guess...
I think he did.
I think the point of the Hallows is that to become the master of death, you have to sort of accept it. And Harry didn't want to be the master of death. He could have done, but he didn't want the responsibility, as Dumbledore pointed out.
But he knew the power in being...
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And why someone in Harry's position, who had just defeated the wizard who killed his family, who had just realized that he was going to most likely spend the rest of his life with Ginny, why would he ever want to live forever?
Wait, I'm seeing a lot of other emails coming in about unnecessary deaths, and one just said, one just said, why do you say that these deaths are unnecessary? It was the question that I just read, and I think that things like Hedwig should answer that. The death of Hedwig was so sudden, and not only was Hedwig killed with the death curse, but then her body was trapped in the cage and plummeted in the sidecar of the motorbike all the way down and exploded and was obliterated. That was a little excessive.
No, he destroyed it. Harry destroyed it.
Oh, Harry destroyed it?
Yeah.
I think Hedwig's death proved that this book was going to have many unexpected,
I think so,
very surprising, and innocent deaths.
Diana here asks, and I agree with this completely, do you guys think that all of the deaths were a lot less sad than in the other books?
Yes.
I think so too, yeah.
But it's the whole war thing, you have time to mourn later, but when you're reading this book, you just...
No, but none of us are going to be mourning later, though. I mean...
No, it's going to... Well, for me personally, I think it's going to sink in. But like with Sirius, it was just... It just happened, and it was horrible.
Right, because it was at just like Dumbledore, too, and Cedric, it was one death, and at the very end of the book. So, during the climax scene. So, I guess you could say that this book was very different in the sense that we just saw all these random deaths. It wasn't as surprising, I guess. Like, I was surprised when Mad Eye died. That was a shame.
I kept thinking he was going to come back. Because they were at Grimmauld Place and they heard his voice or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
At first I thought that meant that he was coming back because they didn't recover the body.
That was kind of crazy. But then, the Ministry had his eye. Umbridge had his eye.
I loved how Harry grabbed the eye.
Yeah.
I don't know. That seemed like a kind of like a foolproof falling into, that's one of the things, one of my major complaints about the book is that Harry, Hermione, and Ron, just had this whole store of Polyjuice Potion. They did make a plan, but they just kind of went in there, and just like Gringotts, it was very flawed, very kind of, at end of the minute, Harry's just under the invisibility cloak, and he stupefies everyone and then runs. It kind of made sense, but there was no resolution with Umbridge at the end then, and Umbridge never really had a scene beyond that. She just slouched forward, and that was the last that the world ever heard of Dolores Umbridge.
Going on from what we were talking about, Hallows, well, you were talking about, Eric, about them controlling death and all three of them being together. Arnie says that the Hallows don't control death.
The Arnie?
No, a different one.
Are you sure?
Yes. The Hallows don't control death, they just avoid it. So the more of them you have, the harder you are to get at by death, which is a pretty interesting point.
Well, one of them is so death can't pursue you,
right.
And the other one is, well, it's in the story of the three brothers.
Mo asked, what happened to Fawkes?
Just, quick disclaimer, we're in London right now, in case nobody knew, and it's 5:30 in the morning, so... in case the sun is coming up.
But as long as the viewers keep climbing, I'll be in here.
If we go very quickly, it's because we've had a noise complaint, though. So
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
What about Fawkes, though? Because he had a big part at the end of Book 6 when flying around. Why didn't we see him again?
We didn't see him at all.
Because I sort of trusted that when she
yeah. And she wrote in that book that he would never hear that song again, or that Fawkes had left, for good.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
I would like to see Fawkes, but.
A leader thinks that all of the deaths just underline the fact that it's a dark book and that there's a war going on.
Okay, the whole time I've been reading this book, I've been thinking about the movie. What are they going to cut? What are they going to keep in? Could it be rated R?
It would have to be.
No.
No, have to be PG.
It would have to be if they followed the book exactly.
But it could be PG, right? I mean,
don't move.
No, it can't be PG.
Don't move your ratings go into showing rather than content. Like you could have a million deaths. Well, like in a movie, if someone said 1 million people die, that would be.
It depends on the language.
It depends on how the deaths are too. I mean,
the romance scenes didn't get too dirty, so that's going to help.
You look at how graphic the scene was, where the snake erupted out of Bathilda.
Very, yeah.
And I'm wondering how they're going to do that in the film.
But I think they could do that without having.
Yeah, but see, I want them to do it right because it's just so horrific that. I feel like they kind of have to do it.
Joe really presented it with something really strange and difficult to do, and I'm just imagining the giants walking across the school grounds towards the castle. While Ron and Harry and Hermione and all the students are on the grounds, and Voldemort's there, and I'm imagining that. But with so much else that happened in the book, I think what's going to happen is they're going to sum up the weeks that they were camping, because Harry, Ron, and Hermione in the beginning of the book. We're just, they were going aimlessly, not even to Godric's Hollow, just kind of camping out and chilling, trying to avoid detection, until Christmas at least. And then until it was March before they really did anything, and then they only made it to Hogwarts in May, or May or June, at the very end of the book. I thought that was a little strange.
Yeah.
Stale popcorn.
Good point.
What else do you want to talk about?
Well, there's a ton of emails coming in, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
Sean, he says that, I think there was a reading, Hedwig died. What would they have done if she was alive and they were camping? Everyone would recognize her and she couldn't fly around.
Oh, yeah.
She was a hazard.
I don't know if you would... Oh, come on. He could have found something to do with
Or they could have disguised her.
If they were hungry, I mean...
Ron was complaining he was hungry.
You know what I'm remembering now? I think it was one of the FAQs on Joe's site, or she answered in an interview. Someone asked, if Hedwig would always be Harry's only pet, and she said, well, he might get a new one eventually.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Well, he got Buckbeak.
He might need a new one.
He gave it to Hagrid.
He might need a new pet.
It's such a sinister thing to say.
After I'm done with
it. Here's a very controversial point. There seems to be hundreds of little holes in the story and ideas introduced in other books that weren't really summed up. And there are a bunch of unnecessary deaths. Anyone think Jo Rowling rushed the book, either on her own accord or under pressure from publishers?
Well, first of all, I don't think she was under pressure from publishers. I do think, though... There were a lot of false promises, like we were just discussing earlier in the show, with some things that we were promised to see. I'm blanking on examples right now, but we were just talking.
I think it's safe to say there were, and it's really a wonder if Jo decided to have more time. I mean, she told us that she was happy with the time she had to do the book, but I think I still would have preferred it out. I mean, if it answered anything or just made the book kind of smoother, I felt the book was unbalanced at points, and that was my opinion. That wasn't really shared.
I honestly like it.
I loved
it too.
And I trust that she put as much work as she thought she needed.
Not Dumbledore.
Umbridge didn't seem as rotten as I sort of expected her to be, especially in comparison to Order of the Phoenix.
No, I thought she was Nazi-like.
I mean, what was it? Undesirables? They started... Oh my god, that was awful.
Someone sent an email that has a comparison between Voldemort and the Ministry in this, and Hitler and the Holocaust. And it does go along with the same thing. Joe hit a lot of moral, ethical messages in this.
Oh,
persecution of minorities.
Maybe I'm thinking too much of the movie now. I just didn't feel like Umbridge was the sweet and sour Umbridge that we...
She was more mean, though.
She was more mean, but
she was too down.
Remember, we hadn't really seen much of her after her encounter in the forest with the centaurs.
No, but we heard some really good things. They still mentioned Umbridge, and Rufus mentioned Umbridge too as well. That she was doing all this nasty stuff, and it was kind of I thought it was anticlimactic. Just in the Ministry, she just slouched forward, and that was the end of her. She didn't do anything at the end and stuff, and there was just no room for her essentially in the rest of the book. I mean,
I thought that she was completely able to. I mean, obviously she has ties with Death Eaters, and she had his eye on her door.
Yeah. Moody's eye,
that was pretty awkward. Yeah,
that was weird. What do you guys think about the epilogue in general? Because she could have written another chapter and talked about, like, Katie thinks that they could have talked about what people did for jobs, because people like these details.
Yeah,
so why did Joe not do that?
All of us had really been looking forward to seeing what everyone was going to be doing later in life, 19 years later, 30 years later. Instead, I mean, there's so many questions left unresolved, and we had sort of expected that this book was going to close up a lot of fan fiction. There wouldn't be as much speculation, but now we're wondering, well, what's the current state of Hogwarts? Who's the headmistress of Hogwarts?
Exactly, we find out.
I would put my money on McGonagall, I guess.
Yeah, Deputy Head.
If she's still alive, if she's not, yes.
That's the other thing. It did close up some fan fiction because, so many people died.
At 19 years later.
Oh, yes.
She's like almost 80.
There's so many people that just died that closed up fan fiction. That put a big gaping hole. You can't have any more Weasley twins. Come on, seriously.
No more twincest. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, no more twincest. That's
here's an interesting question from Lauren. She first of all wants to know about the infant symbolism. Why was Voldemort portrayed as a baby? I thought that was just because he was a baby beforehand. So,
he was made because he was like a seventh.
Second part of the question was, what was the significance of Harry referring to Voldemort as Tom Riddle? Was he marking him as his equal finally?
We talked about this a little earlier in the show, but I think it was basically that he was marking him as his equal, and Dumbledore used to call him Tom.
I wouldn't say that Harry was marking Voldemort as his equal. I think that Harry was being condescending.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to infuriate
rightfully
Voldemort.
So, though.
Of course, I think
because Harry knew that he knew Voldemort didn't. He was Voldemort's better, and he used that to his advantage.
Heather thinks you're very cold-hearted and says, how can you say that Umbridge wasn't bad enough? She was wrecking families that had been together forever and killing wives and husbands just for not having proof. Think about your family. What if she sent off your father and mother?
Okay,
how would you
we don't need to bring my personal family. That's uncalled for, ma'am. But I just maybe I'm just looking too much into the movie now and wanting to see those little hems and all those things.
He just has a crush on Imelda Staunton, and he wants to see more of her.
No, I really do. I love her.
No, but I was saying that...
See, that's one of those things, though, that will be cut from the book. It's not relevant enough to the final plot cut from the movie, because it's not relevant enough.
They may cut Umbridge, but I don't think that they're going to cut the whole storyline of Muggleborns and those families being torn apart.
And they still need to get the Horcrux, which is the locket. So I think they will include Umbridge.
That's right. They have to
get the locket from her.
But they'll chop that up.
I'm pretty sure they will. Like that's like the other thing is they like the whole Gringotts thing, and they just they merge with the cup and the locket, and some of that stuff is just strange. I thought how it was done, and I mean there was a lot of stuff we just could not have predicted with this book.
You know what though? Speaking of predictions, and I just sort of want to all of us, we should give ourselves a collective pat on the back because we were spot on the Gringotts thing. We really, really were, including the dragon. Now, we didn't find out what kind of dragon it was, and it was actually blind, which was why its eyes were white.
Yeah.
But the fact that there was actually a dragon in Gringotts and they escaped that way, I was very proud of us for that. Very proud.
I forgot that we had even realized that.
But it is much easier to come across an Antipodean Obelai than it is a blind dragon who's living underground. So Stevie still did model for that for that cover, by the way.
One of the things, when I was looking at that cover, I couldn't find the exact moment. I couldn't see the exact moment where that cover matched the wording in the story.
But I don't know that that should be like the cover of Deathly Hallows.
I see it.
Well, it does.
I see it too. It was when the gold was multiplying and they fell out.
Yeah, but
they were locked in.
And you could see the dragon, but I don't know. I don't know.
We have a couple.
You're missing a couple. I mean, we were sort of speculating, maybe it's the same thing that we see in the U.S. cover, because what's through the arches you can also see
the same sky
color, right?
Yeah.
We have a couple of other questions.
Wait, don't tilt it up, because...
Yeah, because then you can't see.
Yeah, okay.
Backlight.
We have a couple of questions. When Snape flew away from the castle, was he actually an animagus? Was he a bat, or did he just look like a bat because he learned, like Voldemort, to fly?
I missed the question.
I feel like you did.
He was too busy making
I think he turned into a bat.
But you see, Voldemort can fly.
Yeah.
And he's referred to as an overgrown bat, so was he just flying like Voldemort can, or was he a bat?
I think he was kind of flying. But, I mean...
I think we would have found out.
It kind of made it seem like he might have transformed, but then McGonagall was like, he must have learned some stuff from his master.
Yes.
Or one of them said that. I think it's just likely that he just really, really resembled a bat when he learned to fly.
Okay, one other thing that someone emailed, and I forgot, but now I'm actually quite annoyed that we didn't find it out. When Dumbledore sends the Howler to Petunia and says, "Remember my last."
What the hell?
Maybe the last was Dumbledore rejecting Petunia from Hogwarts?
No, he didn't reject her, though.
I think he was talking about his last
He
letter.
said she could, but she got bitter and was all like, I don't want to go to your freak school. And left, even though she really, really, sent that letter. Because she was so dejected that Lily and Snape were reading her letter that she was like, okay, I don't want any part of that, you freak. And then walked off. But I was under the impression that Dumbledore told Petunia she could go to Hogwarts. I mean, I have to read that again, but I could obviously be very mistaken.
Quite a few people have emailed to ask about what does it mean on the snitch when it says, "I open at the close of his life."
The close of his life.
It must be, because that's when it dawned on him and he said, "I'm about to die."
I'm about to die, and it opened up.
Yeah, and it was also the ring that gave him the ability to see all the, his parents and Remus.
But here's the thing: how does the snitch actually know he's about to die?
Well, it's
Can
just
he
enchanted.
sense the truth?
It was
because Scrimgeour said at the beginning that it had, what was it, like flesh sense or something? And Harry was the first person to catch that snitch, and he actually caught it in his mouth in the first book.
Right, but how does that relate to?
Well, that was kind of clever.
I think that it had to do with him knowing. Like, throughout the whole book, you see him sort of messing with it and trying to make it work, trying to make it open. And I think when he really knew deep down in his gut that he had to die.
And he was confident it was actually going to open.
Yeah.
Might have been a weak plot device, though.
Emma comes up with a very interesting question about, did Harry live or did he die? Because, people have placed bets on this thing.
Oh,
he lived.
Well, he also died, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's it. Will Harry die?
So what happens with that?
Well, how did Voldemort... Voldemort, when he cast the killing curse on Harry, ended up killing the Horcrux, the bit of Voldemort's soul.
Well, that was explained.
Inside Harry. No, it wasn't really, because Harry still has his scar.
No, but it was explained, because he killed only his part of the soul because Voldemort had the protection that Harry was given to by his mother. Voldemort could not physically kill that piece of soul, Harry's actual soul, until his soul was gone.
Yeah. I did like that scene, though, where they both woke up, and that whole climax was really good. I was wondering why Neville didn't die, though, because I was under the impression, just reading, and I was reading really fast, that Voldemort was standing right in front of Neville when he cut the snake off. Like, wasn't Nagini over Voldemort's shoulders?
But also they said that a lot of things were going on at the same time. So what happened was, at the same time that Neville cut off the head of the snake and everyone looked towards it, everything went nuts. Yeah. All of a sudden they had things charging out of the forest at them. They had the students crashing forward to attack. Voldemort was running forward to the Great Hall. Yeah. Everything happened at once.
Corin, going back to the thing about remember my last, Corin says that in the 6th book they explain that Dumbledore's last is a letter explaining the protection of the Dursleys' home over Harry until he comes of age, and that letter is the one that Dumbledore tugs into Harry's blankets when they delivered him.
That's what I thought.
That's what I thought.
Okay, I didn't even think of that.
Oops. What was it? I forget what I was going to say.
Well, I have something to say.
Oh.
And I got an email about this, and it actually came a few hours ago, but basically telling me that I needed to step up to the plate and admit that I was completely 100% wrong about the final battle. It did take place at Hogwarts. I said it wouldn't.
I was wrong.
I said it would be stupid if it would, actually, and I have to take it all back. I have to take it all back completely because Joe did it brilliantly. I mean, there was
teachers defending students in the Great Hall, evacuating through the room of requirement.
I guess my problem was I used to work on the fan fiction site, so I'd read so many of these fan fictions where all the students, they gather up on the front lawn and they run to each other in this Lord of the Rings-esque battle, and this was just so perfect, the way she did it.
It's a shame, because I know we're going to be losing so much of it in the movie. That battle's going to be down so much. You're just going to focus solely on Harry.
It'll be like 15 minutes long.
I do want to see that final battle between Harry and Voldemort, and I got so excited about the final battle in Order of the Phoenix with Voldemort versus Dumbledore. My hopes were sort of misled on that one, but this Harry and Voldemort battle is very important, and I want to see everyone around there. I want to see Molly Weasley calling Bellatrix a bitch. Yeah.
Well,
I guess we could say it now since Joe said it. Why can't we say it?
Yeah.
And then, Ron said, I mean, he didn't actually say the word, but through the whole book, he was like, effing this, effing that.
Effing that, effing this. Yeah. There were a lot of made an obscene hand gesture, or Hermione told him exactly where he could pull flowers from, or stick his wand.
Oh, and wasn't there, who's Merlin's saggy left or something?
Well, that was comical.
That was hilarious.
And when they were passing Malfoy and they punched Malfoy from under the invisibility cloak, he said, "That's twice we saved your life, you two-faced bastard."
Yeah, it was very, very strong.
Yeah.
A couple of people have been asking, they didn't like it when Ron spoke Parseltongue because you can't learn it.
That was weird. I didn't like that at all.
Slightly messed up. I liked that they were getting the chamber again because I thought that was going to happen. I was like, okay, dude, the chamber always exists in the book. In the books, it's always there. What's happening in the chamber, and that's been like a really big source of speculation. Like, will we go back or whatever? Will we see it? And Hermione and Ron went back. I don't know that I have a problem with him, like, hissing or whatever, like, especially if he could make it, like, really accurate necessarily.
Yeah, I think it was okay, just because you can imitate a language.
You can
It's very, very difficult.
You can. I guess it just seems somewhat awkward to me because it seemed like Parseltongue was such a rare thing, not that many people could do it, and Harry could only do it because he'd had the power transferred into him. So it just seemed odd that Ron could just mimic it. But then she did sort of lead up to it because through the book, Ron mimicked everything. He mimicked Wormtail's voice at one point, didn't he?
Yeah.
And it seems like she was kind of leading up to that. To
Wormtail, guys, what do you think about Wormtail? That was really well done.
I did see an email about that.
I liked that.
Why did you think it was well done? Because some people were calling it out, saying they were disappointed in the way Wormtail repaid them. I guess it was still crucial, but...
Yeah. Well, if you're in such a situation where you're stuck in some kind of weirdo prison underneath the Malfoy Manor, and it's impenetrable, and it seemed like a crawl space, like a really weird scene, I just thought, like, if you're going to have to escape from that, like, what a better way to get Wormtail to repay his debt? Because Wormtail's kind of, he's not really a very authoritative Death Eater like Bellatrix or Lucius. Mm. So I thought the death was an opportunity, and it was well as Dumbledore had predicted.
Not to break from the point, but I just found something in the book about the wand and how you were wondering why someone could be defeated with the wand.
The death stick.
And Mr. Ollivander actually cleared this up, and Harry says, Mr. Ollivander says, The Dark Lord no longer seeks the Elder Wand only for your destruction, Mr. Potter. He's determined to possess it, because he believes it will make him truly invulnerable. And will it? Asked Harry. The owner of the Elder Wand must always fear attack. But the idea...
It's the whole fear, sorry.
No,
I was going to say, it's the whole fear thing. Like, if you're ultimately powerful and responsible for your own destiny, then you fear other people. It's like someone emailed and said that there's a lot of political idealism in this book, and just that thing, it's very Hobbesian that you're scared for your own survival. You're fearful of everyone else one question when we just find this.
Well, one thing I was going to bring up is, what did you think about the passage in the Room of Requirement?
You mean the fact that the Room of Requirement could create a tunnel out of Hogwarts, let alone directly to the Hogshead?
It bothered me because what was Draco doing all
of Book 6? Because he was trying to mend that vanishing cabinet, which to get the Death Eaters into Hogwarts through Borgin and Burke.
You know what? I think she cleared that up, though, because she stated that you had to be very specific, and they talked about how Neville was really one of the only people who had been specific enough to make it work.
Okay, well, that still sucks to be Draco, then, that he wasn't specific enough.
He was probably saying something along the lines of, I need to think of a way to transport people into Hogwarts, or something along those lines.
Either that, or I need a place to fit
to fit the vanishing cabinet. Yeah. Something like that.
I need a place with a working vanishing cabinet that is a pair to the Borgin and Burke.
Yeah. You know, I hate to say wrap it up, but we do have to wrap it up because we've been going for an hour now. This easily is an episode of MuggleCast. There are a few big questions that we're going to save for our road tour and, of course, some more recorded episodes of MuggleCast. What were the other 2 titles Joe was considering for the book?
I want to find that out.
Who got the reprieve?
I think it was
Which 2 died?
Which 2 died who weren't originally planned to die?
Probably
to the Dursleys.
What happened to the Dursleys? But, I mean, there's some of the bigger questions. I think the shock of the book, Harry was a Horcrux. Because a friend of ours was very insistent upon the fact that he was not, and I can't wait to release that live Leaky Mug. Featuring our friends at Leaky insisting that Harry was not a Horcrux.
Well, wait a minute,
and Emerson, poor Emerson, getting mocked and laughed at because
I heard all that.
Everyone thought he wasn't. But anyway,
thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in.
Thank
Jamie
you very much.
clearly wants to get out of here.
No. It's just that I haven't had a shower for quite a while, and I need to have one right away.
Awful.
We're going to have a
Apparently, I smell terrible.
So close to the mic. Everyone's you just yelled.
Oops, I'm sorry.
So much more discussion to come soon. By the way, if you haven't been listening to MuggleCast, this is what you can get when you listen weekly to MuggleCast, our free Harry Potter podcast. Just go to MuggleCast.com for more information.
Will we even be doing MuggleCast now with all the road tour? Will it be hard to get everything out on Sundays? Because you guys are going to be going crazy.
The shows will still come out on Sundays. Everyone who's not on the road tour, you guys still can still get together and record things.
Well, if there's no email, if there's no editor, if you're not around.
No, we have an editor.
Oh, yeah.
The guy in Australia.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Yeah, so thanks to everyone for listening, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Wait,
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.